Hello everybody. If you want to read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short Story 672, The Hedge Disaster. Intermediate. George was a landscape gardener who loved two things, tea and hedges. He could spend hours cutting, trimming and shaping hedges into all sorts of designs. His neighbours had swans, elephants, even a giant teapot made of leaves, all thanks to George. One sunny Monday, George was asked to work on Mrs. Pritchard's garden. She wanted a simple hedge in the shape of a heart. Easy, thought George. He sharpened his clippers, sipped his tea and began. But halfway through, George sneezed. Snip! Instead of a heart, the hedge now looked like a lopsided potato. Mrs. Pritchard wasn't happy. "That doesn't look romantic at all," she cried. George promised to fix it. He trimmed a bit here, snipped a bit there. Soon the potato became a wonky star, then a very fat rabbit, and finally something that looked suspiciously like a giant pair of trousers. The neighbours gathered at the fence, giggling. Someone whispered, "Is that supposed to be art?" Another shouted, "Looks like my uncle's pyjamas." Poor George turned red, but kept going. By evening, George had created so many shapes that the hedge was almost gone. Mrs. Pritchard gasped, "You've cut half of it away." George sighed and gave up. He poured the last of his tea into his mug and stood back. And then something unexpected happened. In the golden evening light, the hedge, full of strange shapes and empty spaces, looked like a piece of modern art. The neighbours clapped. One man even took a photo. Mrs. Pritchard tilted her head, squinted, and finally smiled. "You know, George, this is actually brilliant. I shall call it the Garden of Trousers." George laughed for the first time all day. He packed up his tools, happy to be called an artist instead of a disaster. And from that day on, people didn't ask George for hearts or swans. They asked for trousers, potatoes, and other strange creations. George became famous, not for neat hedges, but for the funniest gardens in town. Vocabulary notes. Hedge, meaning a row of bushes or small trees planted close together, usually to form a boundary or fence. Example: George was a landscape gardener who loved two things, tea and hedges. Similar words: bush, shrub, foliage, greenery. Lopsided, meaning not even or balanced, leaning or shaped more on one side than the other. Example: instead of a heart, the hedge now looked like a lopsided potato. Similar words: uneven, crooked, wonky, tilted. Snip, meaning a short, quick cut made with scissors or clippers. Example: George sneezed. Snip. Similar words: cut, clip, trim, slice. Giggle, meaning to laugh lightly, often in a silly or nervous way. Example: the neighbours gathered at the fence, giggling. Similar words: chuckle, snicker, titter, laugh. Squint, meaning to partly close your eyes in order to see something more clearly. Example: Mrs. Pritchard tilted her head, squinted, and finally smiled. Similar words: peer, blink, narrow your eyes, glance. Story written by ChatGPT AI. Image created by ChatGPT AI. To read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. CC Music, drifting at 432 Hz, Unicorn Heads.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're sinking our shears into a really interesting short story. On the surface, it's about, well, a pretty disastrous gardening job.
Right.
But underneath, it's actually a fantastic look at perspective, failure, and maybe how you stumble into being an artist.
Yeah, accidentally. The source focuses on this character, George. He's a landscape gardener.
And his whole thing apparently was order, dedication, and tea and hedges. Very classic.
Oh, very. George wasn't just competent, he was known for perfection. Think swans, elephants, those really intricate topiary shapes.
Right, those perfect green sculptures.
Exactly. But the job that kicks this all off sounds simple. Mrs. Pritchard just wanted a hedge shaped like a heart. Clean, symmetrical.
A nice, simple heart shape.
Simple, yes. But our mission here is to figure out how George, going from that request to a total failure, somehow led to this, artistic breakthrough.
Okay.
So let's unpack how he got from classic craftsman to, accidental modern artist. It's quite a journey.
It really starts with something tiny, doesn't it? Just an involuntary reaction.
A sneeze.
George sneezed, and the timing couldn't be worse. Snip. He makes a cut.
And bam! That perfect heart symmetry, gone instantly.
The story calls the result a lopsided potato, which is not quite the romantic shape she was going for.
Definitely not. And Mrs. Pritchard's disappointment is immediate. You can feel it.
So what does George do? Does he stop?
No, and this is where it gets interesting. He doesn't quit. He spirals. Starts frantically trying to fix it.
The fix-it spirals.
Yeah.
Never ends well.
Rarely. So the potato, he tries to turn it into a star, but it's wonky. Then he aims for a rabbit, but it comes out really fat.
A fat rabbit.
Oh, dear.
It just keeps getting more absurd. He's cutting and cutting, trying to force order back onto it.
Until it resembles.
Until it ends up looking like, and this is a direct quote, a giant pair of trousers.
Trousers in hedge form. Okay. And this is all happening out in the open, right?
Exactly. The social pressure ramps up. Neighbors are gathering.
And they're not just watching quietly. They start to giggle, making comments.
What kind of comment?
Like, that looks like my uncle's pajamas, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Pure humiliation for George.
You have to wonder, was he still trying to fix the art, or was he just so mortified he wanted to, erase the evidence by cutting more?
That's a good question. I think that humiliation might actually be key. It's the rock bottom moment. He's cut away maybe half the hedge by now. He's given up, totally resigned to failure. Nothing left to lose, really.
Okay, so he's defeated, standing back.
Yes. And then the light changes. Late evening sun hits what's left, these sparse, odd, jagged shapes.
Wow.
And everything flips. Suddenly, it doesn't look like a mistake anymore.
The trousers.
The trousers, they look like...
Oh.
Well, someone calls it a piece of modern art. Bold, daring.
Seriously. The neighbors who were laughing.
They start clapping. It's this amazing turnaround. The whole perception just shifts on a dime.
Wow. And Mrs. Pritchard, was she genuinely okay with hedge trousers instead of a heart? Or just going along with the crowd?
It seems genuine. Once it was framed as art, the whole idea of what was good changed. She didn't need a heart anymore. She had a statement.
A statement piece for the garden.
She loved it. Even named it the Garden of Trousers.
Incredible. And George, did he see it?
The story says he had to actually squint to see the art in his own mistake, which tells you a lot, right? How much his own definition of success had to bend.
That's the real takeaway here for you, the listener, isn't it? That pivot from aiming for perfect technical skill
to embracing something completely original, even if it came from a mess up.
And it worked. He didn't just salvage the job. He became famous. Not for swans anymore.
Nope. Famous for the funniest gardens in town, specializing in trousers and potatoes. He found his niche, Accidentally created a whole new brand for himself.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, George's story really shows how sometimes leaning into the imperfection, embracing the lopsided thing,
That can be the key. It can turn what feels like a total disaster into something unique, something celebrated. That failure wasn't just a blip, it became his whole career path.
which leaves us with a thought for you to ponder. If George hadn't sneezed that day, if he'd made the perfect heart, would he have ever, chosen to leave behind his perfect hedges? Or did he need that moment of absolute public failure to accidentally find his real fame as an artist? Something to think about.